Victory over the alien horde earned me the Queen's ultimate prize, a bonded mate. The ambassador's reward. The Venturi sovereign's audience chamber resembled a living nebula. Clouds of bioluminescent gases drifted through the cavernous space, occasionally forming patterns that resembled faces or geometric symbols before dissolving again. Commander Lyra Novak forced herself to stand perfectly still despite the uncomfortable pressure in her sinuses. The atmospheric mixture here was calibrated for Venturi physiology, breathable to humans but with subtle compounds that triggered sensations ranging from mild discomfort to vague existential dread. Ambassador Novak, the sovereign's voice reverberated through the chamber, seeming to come from everywhere at once rather than the elongated figure seated on the elevated platform. You have successfully mediated the Proxima conflict. 3 cycles of bloodshed, concluded through your unusual methods. Lyra maintained her diplomatic posture, hands clasped behind her back. The Galactic Alliance appreciates your luminance's willingness to engage in peaceful resolution. A ripple of color, amusement, irritation, passed through the gases surrounding the sovereign. You compelled us to negotiate by threatening to detonate a quantum resonance device within our primary spawning grounds. I merely pointed out potential consequences of continued hostilities, Lyra replied evenly. 6 months of negotiations had taught her that Venturi respected strength above all else. The Alliance seeks partnership, not dominance. Indeed. The Sovereign's long fingers touched a console, causing the floor to iris open in the center of the chamber. A platform rose from below, carrying a figure that made Lyra's carefully composed expression falter momentarily. He was tall, with the lithe musculature common to Venturi, but his features were a fascinating blend, skin a pale blue-gray rather than the deep indigo of purebloods, eyes silver rather than black, and lacking the cranial ridges that marked the sovereign species. He wore what appeared to be ceremonial armor, intricate patterns etched into metal that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. This is Darien, the sovereign announced. He will accompany you back to Alliance space. Lyra blinked. I don't understand, your luminance. A token of our new accord. He will serve as cultural attaché to your people. Darien's expression remained impassive, but Lyra didn't miss the slight tension in his shoulders. This wasn't a reward, it was a chess move. And from the look of him, Darien was no ordinary Venturi. Your generosity honors us, she said, the diplomatic platitude automatic while her mind raced through implications. He carries our trust, the sovereign continued, emphasis falling strangely on the word carries. We expect he will be treated with appropriate respect. Later, aboard the Alliance vessel Dauntless, Lyra paced her quarters while Darien stood motionless near the viewport, staring at the stars as they prepared for departure from Venturi space. You didn't volunteer for this, she said finally, breaking the silence. Few things in life are voluntary, Commander. His voice was melodic but with an undertone like distant thunder, unmistakably Venturi despite his hybrid appearance. I go where I am needed. And why exactly does the sovereign think you're needed with me? His silver eyes shifted to her, expression unreadable. Because I am the only one of my kind, and that makes me both valuable and dangerous. That's not an answer. It's the only one I'm permitted to give. He turned back to the viewport. Your quarters are comfortable. I require minimal accommodation. Lyra crossed her arms. These are diplomatic quarters, not your permanent assignment. Once we reach Callisto Station, you'll be assigned appropriate housing and... I must remain with you, he interrupted, his tone leaving no room for argument. The sovereign's instructions were explicit. I'm not a babysitter, Lyra snapped, fatigue from months of high-tension negotiations fraying her patience. Darien's lips curved in what might have been a smile on a human face. Nor am I a child, Commander. Consider me a shadow. One assigned to you by powers beyond your control. Wonderful, she muttered. Just what I always wanted. 3 days later, as the Dauntless cut through fold space, Lyra found Darien in the ship's observation deck during the artificial night cycle. He sat cross-legged on the floor, palms upward on his knees, eyes closed. The starfield stretched beyond the reinforced glass, distorted by their transit through dimensional boundaries. "You're avoiding the crew," she said, not bothering with a greeting. "I make them uncomfortable." He didn't open his eyes. "It is counterproductive." Lyra lowered herself to sit beside him, maintaining a respectful distance. "You make me uncomfortable too, but here we are." That earned her a glance, silver eyes reflecting the starlight. "Why?" "Because I don't know what you are, or why you're really here." She studied his profile. "Half Venturi, I'm guessing." "But the Venturi don't breed with other species. It's biologically impossible without extensive genetic manipulation." "Yes." The single syllable seemed to contain volumes. Lyra waited for elaboration that didn't come. "That's it?" "Just, yes." "What would knowing accomplish, Commander?" "Would it make you trust me more?" "Less." "Would it change the fact that I am bound to you now?" She frowned. Bound is an interesting choice of words. Darian turned to face her fully, and something in his expression made her breath catch. There was ancient sorrow there, and resignation, and something else she couldn't name. "The Sovereign did not give me to you as a gift, Commander Novak. I was sent to observe you, to learn from you, and, if necessary, to protect you from what is coming." "And what exactly is coming?" His gaze returned to the starfield. "Change. Revelation. Perhaps destruction. It depends on the choices you make." "That's reassuringly cryptic," Lyra said dryly. A small alarm chimed from Darian's armor, and he touched a panel on his wrist. Instantly, faint lines of light appeared beneath his skin, tracing patterns like circuitry from his fingers up his arms, disappearing beneath his clothing. They pulsed once, twice, then faded. Lyra stared. "What was that?" "Synchronization," he said simply, then rose to his feet in one fluid motion. "We should return to quarters. The ship will be dropping out of fold space soon." "How do you know that?" "The schedule says we have 3 more hours." He paused at the doorway, looking back at her with an expression that might have been pity. "There's a drive harmonics fluctuation in the port nacelle. We'll need to recalibrate at the nearest outpost." As if on cue, the ship's communication system activated. "Commander Novak to engineering, please." "Commander Novak to engineering." Darian's expression remained neutral. "After you, Commander." The engineering bay buzzed with activity when they arrived. Chief Engineer Valero looked up from a diagnostic panel, his weathered face creased with concern. "Commander, we've got an anomaly in the fold drive. Harmonics are destabilizing in the port nacelle." He noticed Darian and frowned. "Should he be here for this discussion?" "Apparently he diagnosed the problem before your systems did," Lyra said. "What's our status?" "We need to drop out and recalibrate. There's an outpost at Helios 9 within range." Valero glanced suspiciously at Darian. "How did he know?" Before Lyra could respond, the ship shuddered violently. Warning klaxons blared as emergency lighting activated. "That's not right," Valero muttered, fingers flying across the controls. "The destabilization shouldn't be progressing this quickly." "It's not mechanical failure," Darian said, stepping forward. "We're being tracked." "That's impossible in fold space," Valero snapped. "Not for those who built the pathways between stars." Darian's hands moved to his collar, unfastening a section of his armor to reveal more of the circuitry-like patterns beneath his skin, now glowing steadily. "They're targeting you, Commander." "Me?" Lyra steadied herself against a console as another tremor rocked the ship. "Who's targeting me?" "Those who fear what I represent. What we might become together." His silver eyes met hers, intense and urgent. "The Sovereign didn't send me just to observe. I was sent because you have something they need, something in your genetic structure that resonates with ancient technology. Technology that could shift the balance of power across the galaxy." The ship lurched again, more violently. Valero shouted orders as crew members scrambled to contain cascading systems failures. "Commander," Darien said, "we have very little time. Do you trust me?" "I barely know you," Lyra responded. "Yet here we are." He extended his hand, the luminous patterns pulsing beneath his skin. "Bound by forces greater than either of us understood. Until now." As alarms screamed around them and the ship began to tear itself apart, Lyra made a decision that would change everything. She reached out and took his hand. The circuitry patterns beneath Darien's skin flared brilliantly, then spread, jumping from his fingertips to hers, racing up her arm in delicate, luminous lines. Lyra gasped as knowledge flooded her consciousness, ancient star maps, quantum equations, and the terrible truth about why the Venturi sovereign had really sent Darien to her. "Hold on," he whispered as reality fractured around them. "This is only the beginning." Convergence point. The displacement hit like a supernova behind Lyra's eyes, a white-hot flash followed by disorienting darkness. When her senses realigned, the familiar confines of the Dauntless had vanished. She and Darien stood in a vast chamber that seemed to exist both inside and outside of normal space, its boundaries shifting like liquid metal. "What did you do?" Lyra gasped, stumbling as her mind struggled to process the transition. The luminous patterns had settled beneath her skin, now pulsing in perfect synchronization with Darien's. "Emergency protocol," he replied, steadying her. "The ship was targeted with a dimensional fracture bomb. Everyone aboard has been placed in stasis until the damage can be contained." Lyra pulled away from his grip. "And us? We're elsewhere." Darien gestured to their surroundings. "This is a nexus point, a place between realities where the architects once gathered." The chamber responded to his voice, illuminating ancient consoles and display fields that hovered in the air like ghostly artifacts. Symbols Lyra couldn't comprehend scrolled across transparent surfaces. "The architects," she repeated. "You mean the ones who supposedly built the full paths?" "That's just a myth. Most legends contain seeds of truth." Darien approached one of the consoles, his fingers hovering above its surface. "The Venturi discovered fragments of their technology centuries ago. That discovery transformed us from a struggling species into an interstellar power. The implications hit her like a tactical strike. That's why the Sovereign sent you with me. The Alliance has found something too." Darien nodded. "Project Prometheus. Your scientists unearthed an artifact on Europa 3 years ago, a quantum resonator that defies your understanding of physics." "How do you know about that?" Lyra demanded. "That's classified at the highest levels." "Because I was engineered to interface with it." Darien's expression hardened. "The Sovereign didn't create me out of scientific curiosity, Commander. I'm a weapon, designed to locate and activate dormant architect technology." The patterns beneath Lyra's skin flashed brighter in response to her surge of adrenaline. "And what am I in this equation?" "The key." He held her gaze. "The architects left safeguards. Their most powerful technologies require dual activation, 2 distinct genetic signatures working in concert. The Venturi have been searching for a compatible human counterpart for decades. And they found me," Lyra whispered, remembering the extensive medical scans she'd undergone before the peace negotiations. "The medical requirements for the diplomatic mission were genetic screenings," Darien confirmed. "When they identified your compatibility, the Sovereign orchestrated everything, including the resolution of the Proxima conflict, to bring us together." Lyra paced the chamber, mind racing. "So whoever attacked the Dauntless wants to prevent our union," Darien finished. "There are factions within both the Alliance and the Venturi sovereignty who fear what the architect technology could unleash." The chamber trembled suddenly, its boundaries fluctuating wildly. Through momentary tears in reality, Lyra glimpsed impossible images, planets with twin suns, vast city ships drifting through nebulae, and civilizations that existed beyond her comprehension. "We can't stay here," Darien said urgently. The Nexus is unstable without proper activation. And how exactly do we activate it? Complete synchronization. His voice softened. It requires trust, Lyra. Total alignment of our neurological patterns. She laughed without humor. You want me to mind meld with you? After learning I've been manipulated and lied to for months. I wasn't given a choice either, he responded, a flash of genuine emotion breaking through his composed exterior. I was created for this purpose. Raised in isolation, trained to blend into human society while maintaining my connection to Venturi heritage. The chamber shuddered again, more violently. A console exploded in a shower of crystalline fragments. We're out of time, Darien said. If the Nexus collapses while we're inside, we'll be scattered across realities, fragments of consciousness lost in dimensional void. And if I agree to this synchronization, we activate the Nexus properly. From here, we can return to normal space, to your ship, and have a fighting chance against whoever targeted us. Lyra's military instincts warred with her sense of betrayal. And I'm just supposed to trust that you won't use this activation to further Venturi interests. You've seen inside my mind already, Darien said, gesturing to the glowing patterns that now linked them. You know I'm telling the truth. She did. The initial connection had flooded her with fragments of his consciousness, his isolation, his training, and most surprisingly, his desperate hope that their partnership might end the cycle of manipulation and control. Another section of the chamber collapsed inward, revealing a swirling void beyond. Fine, Lyra decided. What do we do? Darien led her to the center of the chamber where a circular platform rose from the floor. Stand opposite me. Place your hands on the interface. They faced each other across a crystalline console that hummed with energy. When Lyra placed her palms on its surface, the connection was immediate and overwhelming. Memories not her own flooded her consciousness, Darien's childhood in a sterile laboratory, the pain of genetic modifications, and the loneliness of being neither fully Venturi nor remotely human. In return, she felt him experiencing her life, her military training, the battles she'd fought, the nightmares that followed her from war zones, and the complicated pride she took in her diplomatic accomplishments. Open yourself completely, Darien's voice echoed both aloud and within her mind. No barriers. The final walls between them dissolved. Their consciousnesses merged, not as separate entities but as facets of a newly formed whole. The chamber responded instantly, the chaotic fluctuations stabilizing as ancient systems hummed to life. Through their shared awareness, knowledge unfolded like a cosmic flower. The architects had not vanished but ascended, leaving behind technologies to guide worthy civilizations toward similar evolution. The Nexus was both test and gateway, designed to identify species capable of transcending their biological limitations. We need to make a choice, Darien's thoughts intertwined with hers. The Nexus can return us to the Dauntless with knowledge that could change the balance of power forever. Or, Lyra prompted, sensing the alternative. We can activate the full architect network, initiating contact with others who have discovered similar Nexus points across the galaxy. The implications staggered her. Not just humans and Venturi, but potentially dozens of civilizations linked through the architect legacy, forced to cooperate rather than compete. It would end the power struggles, she thought. Or begin new ones, he countered. There's no certainty, only possibility. Another tremor shook the chamber, weaker this time but persistent. Someone was still trying to breach the Nexus from outside. They're getting closer, Darien warned. We need to decide. Lyra's diplomatic training collided with her military instincts. The Alliance would expect her to secure this technology for humanity's benefit. The Venturi had sent Darien to do the same for their interests. Neither of our governments can be trusted with this power, she realized, the thought flowing freely between them. No, he agreed. But together, perhaps we can be the guardians they never intended us to be. Decision crystallized between them, not Lyra's alone, nor Darien's, but a third path forged from their unique convergence. Their hands pressed harder against the console, the patterns beneath their skin flaring with blinding intensity. The Nexus responded, reality folding around them as the chamber transformed into a bridge between worlds. Through their shared consciousness, they sent a signal cascading through the network, not activating its full potential, but establishing parameters that would prevent any single power from controlling it. They'll never forgive us for this, Lyra thought as the Nexus began returning them to normal space. Probably not, Darian's consciousness brushed against hers with unexpected warmth. But they'll have to work together if they want to understand what we've done. The brilliance faded as the Dauntless materialized around them. They stood in engineering bay, hands still clasped, surrounded by confused crew members emerging from stasis. The ship's systems were restored, emergency klaxons silenced. Chief Engineer Valero stared at them in shock. "Commander? What happened?" The drive core was destabilizing and then, everything just reset. Lyra released Darian's hand, though the connection between them remained, a subtle awareness humming beneath consciousness. The circuitry patterns had faded from visibility but not from existence. "We experienced a technical malfunction," she said smoothly. "Run full diagnostics and prepare a report. We'll be continuing to Callisto Station as planned." As the crew dispersed to their duties, Darian stepped closer to her. "The Alliance will want answers when we arrive," he murmured. "As will the Sovereign." Lyra watched the stars through the viewport, seeing them now with new understanding, not just celestial bodies but guideposts to a legacy beyond their comprehension. "Let them ask their questions," she replied quietly. "We'll give them enough truth to keep the peace without revealing everything." She turned to face him, seeing him truly for the first time, not as Venturi or human or hybrid, but as the other half of something unprecedented. "After all," she added with the faintest smile, "we're cultural attaches now. Building bridges between civilizations." The patterns beneath their skin pulsed once in silent agreement as the Dauntless continued its journey through space, carrying its transformed passengers toward an uncertain but shared future.